Welcome back to Vlogmas. Hello. Welcome back. I am so excited to share with you guys something very exciting. We're gonna ignore this cabinet that looks very empty because I just pulled a bunch of books out from there, but I wanted to recap my 2022 reading. So, The 411. I am by no means some super crazy avid reader. I'm actually really proud of myself because I read so many books this year. Like for me, I used to never read books, but this year I really tried to put down my phone and pick up more books, and even while working full-time and going to school full-time, I still managed to read quite a few books, and I do enjoy reading, and I already have like a massive to-be-read pile. Next year my goal is 52 books. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, or maybe it does seem like a lot and I'm just a little bit too ambitious, but I think it's a good goal for me, one book a week essentially. So yeah, I'm gonna be going through all of the books that I read. I'm gonna do quick synopsis, my feelings, thoughts, all of the above. And I actually have them in order from worst to best. So this could also be quite controversial, but I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you do, definitely be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, coming in last place, you guys, I think this is like a pretty big like reveal because this will tell you, I feel like, almost everything you need to know. This, I think, was a TikTok book, and for me, it didn't do it. I don't know, I think I just went into it hoping that there'd be some crazy big plot twist, and there just wasn't. So in last place is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this book. I don't know, it just wasn't for me. I think like the theme of the book, I would say, is probably friendship. Maybe it was just a little bit too outlandish for me, like super unrealistic. This just like doesn't happen. People don't get called up and told what these kids did. I think it's like a sweet book, but out of everything I read, I just was not a really big fan of this one. So yeah, last place. Okay, you guys, some of you are not gonna like this. But one of the books I read on my trip to France was It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. And you guys know I tend to be more on the side of like, I'm a fan of the books and the writing, so this is probably shocking. However, I just didn't like this. I picked it up because I read the other one. I felt like I had to just kind of read it, and I don't know, even like in the book she writes that she like wrote it for TikTok and the world, and you know, people wanted to see more of this love story. I just felt like it wasn't anything crazy for me. So it just didn't stand out. That's why it's kind of at the end. So could have read it, could have gone without reading it. I didn't feel like it was necessary to read after It Ends With Us. So this is gonna be second to last. All right, this book, I don't know how I feel about this book. So this was The Way I Used to Be. And I guess I just kind of I read the back of the book and what it was about, and I guess I just kind of maybe had like too many ideas of how the book and the story was going to be told. But I personally I didn't really care for it. I just didn't really care for it. It was a good book, just not the story I thought it was going to be, if that makes sense. I felt like the storyline of like the sister, I don't know, I guess it's kind of just everything that I didn't want it to be, it was. So, I don't know, a little bit of a letdown. So this book, yeah. All right, another book I read on my way I think I actually read this on my way home from Paris, is Something in the Water. So I got this book, I knew nothing about this book. It says Reese's Book Club, but I didn't even know it was part of it. I got this purely because of the cover. Psychological thriller. I did not feel that way about the book. Did I read the book quickly? Yes. Did I get through it quickly? Yes. Ending, absolute letdown. The ending was an absolute letdown. It had some good moments to it, but I wouldn't really say it's like a thriller. I wasn't like nervous or on the edge of my seat with this book. For me, I just actually was really disappointed in the storyline, and I have so many questions still about like what happened. So this one, definitely a quick read, but it just wasn't one of my favorites. So this is I'm gonna get absolutely destroyed for this. I know it in my bones. You guys, I'm like scared to show you because I just feel like everyone and their mother is going to come for me. I have never taken so long to read a book. Every single book in this pile was read, I would say, in a day. Every book in this pile was read in a day with the exception of this book. It took me almost 2 weeks. And they both died at the end. It took me about 5 days because I just could not get into it. I don't know what it was about this book. Like, I think it was how it was told, the story. I found it very difficult to read. I felt like I recognized some of the names, but I was confused. I don't know. For me, it wasn't my favorite book of the year. I know that everyone really, really likes this book, and it did have some really like emotional parts to it, but I don't know. It was weird. It wasn't my thing. I think it just wasn't my thing, and that's all. I have an entire video up on YouTube already about the Colleen Hoover books that I've read, so I'm gonna just kind of gloss over these. Not really gonna harp on them too long. My next book is Ugly Love. Good book from what I remember. I read it super quick. Out of all of these other ones, this is just where it fell in the pile. So, all right, this book, major letdown. I guessed exactly what had happened in this book by like chapter 2. Then she was gone. I talked about how my sister wants to read this book and I didn't get it for her for Christmas because I just wasn't a fan. I mean, I read it quickly. Definitely like, you want to confirm that you're correct. But I knew who it was. I guessed it. So I don't like books like that. I like books that really just like keep me hooked and like throw me for a loop. And this was not that. So kind of disappointing, but overall a good book. Also, I'm not like, I liked these books, if we're ranking them, this is just how they fall into the ranking. All right, next up is Normal People. I actually kind of enjoyed this book. This was like a good book. I read it quickly. It was cute. Kind of weird though. I started watching the Hulu series and I just could not get into the Hulu series at all. So I don't know. All right, another controversial one, you guys. I know it. I saw the movie, okay? I went and saw the movie Where the Crawdads Sing. I got a ton of books, okay? I went on a splurge. I went and I bought all of these books. I was like, I don't want to just read Colleen Hoover. And that's like another thing, sidebar. People are like, don't read Colleen Hoover because you're not going to read anything else. I disagree. I started reading Colleen Hoover because of Book Talk. And it has opened my eyes to like so much more when I tell you the amount of books I have in my to be read pile and all of the different authors. I have one Colleen Hoover book out of maybe 17 books right now that I have to read. And it's fun. For me, I think part of the reason I didn't like this book is it was very hard for me to read. All of the slang, I just wasn't a big fan of that. It was very difficult for me to read like that. And I don't know, in my opinion, I think the movie, I could be wrong. I felt like the movie told the story of the book like almost perfect to a T. I just didn't like the movie. I don't like, the movie was good, but it wasn't like anything exceptional. So I don't know. I think a little overhyped in my opinion. All right, again, I'm not gonna harp on these. I have an entire video talking about these books. These kind of come in like, these are like tied for me, and this is Regretting You and All Your Perfects. Both good books, I enjoyed them. Two completely different storyline. This one I really like because I I felt was a little bit more, I don't know, it just tells an interesting story about this couple. This was more of like a mother-daughter relationship. So I liked them both. They were good, and I'd say they were just kind of equal. Read them both in a day, super easy read, good story. All right, next up is the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Good book. Again, totally did not guess the plot twist, so was a big fan of that, and it was just a good story. I remember reading this after I read Verity, and it was a little bit of like a letdown from that, but in the grand scheme of all of my reading, I'm like, okay, it was still like a really good book. So big fan of this one, totally worth reading if you haven't already. Next up is It Ends With Us. I feel like I talk about this book a lot in the Colleen Hoover video, so if you want to learn more about my thoughts and feelings of Colleen Hoover books, I would just check out that video. So this one was next. And then I have The Unhoneymooners. I loved this book. This was such a good book. A couple of weird storylines in it, but I liked that. I wasn't like bothered by it. It's basically about these two people who are in this wedding and they don't eat the food, so they're the only people who don't get sick, and then they go on this honeymoon that the couple was supposed to go on because the couple's sick and can't go, and they just like, it reminds me of that movie with Jennifer Aniston, Just Go With It. I think that gave me like this vibe, so I really enjoyed this book. All right, next up is November 9th by Colleen Hoover. Again, talk about this book a lot. I was a big fan of this one. I kind of still feel the way that I do. I'm not like a huge fan. I don't know how to feel about the love story in this after I've read it. I don't know. I could talk about all of these storylines forever, but I'm just trying to give a very brief overview of these reads. So a good book, definitely made it into my top 5. One of my favorite books that I picked up, I read a lot of romance this year. Next year is going to be my thriller year, but this was Emily Henry, People We Meet on Vacation. I literally love to travel and see the world, so I just found this story to be like fun, and I just really liked it. It was, I think, everything you think a romance novel is going to be, but the way it was written was very good. And I have 2 more books by Emily Henry to read because I was a huge fan of this one. And I hear the other books are actually better, so I don't know how that's possible, but this made it into my top 5. Top 3 books. In 3rd place is Verity by Colleen Hoover. If you guys are hearing all the hype about this book, you know, there's a reason. There is a reason. Say what you want, feel how you want about Colleen Hoover. This book is top tier. I also have the special edition somewhere floating in my life, not a make or break buy, but highly, highly recommend this book. I loved this book. This book I owe everything to because I would have never picked up reading if it was not for this book. So I'm very appreciative of that because reading, it's just been so good for me to like get off my phone. In 2nd place, this was tough, but this was one of my favorite romance novels. I don't know what it was about this book, but Every Summer After by Carly Fortune was just amazing. I loved this book. I love this story. I read this, I picked this up one morning and I was like, I'm just gonna read, I'm gonna try and be trendy and aesthetic. I sat in bed all day and I read this book, and I will literally probably read it again. Really, really loved. And then my number 1 book of 2022, if you've been watching any of my videos, you probably have no idea what it is. Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This book put me to tears. I don't know what it was about this book, what it was about this story, the romance, the passion, the grief, the trauma, everything about this book I loved. I love this book. Yeah, definitely. I knew the second I read it, I was like, nothing will top this. Nothing will top this. And it's true. Nothing topped it. So my number 1 book of 2022, Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in and watching. I know Vlogmas is all over the place, but I appreciate you guys bearing with me. I hope that you guys are enjoying everything that I'm putting out for you. I'm trying to cover, you know, a variety of topics. I'm all over the place. I've got a bunch of interests and favorites. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and definitely let me know what you want to see next. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time for another Vlogmas video.